Hello, hello, hello. This is 3D or 2D.com's The 3D Show.
It came from the third dimension.
As always, I'm your host, Adolph Vega, and with me is...
James Tate.
Put on your 3D glasses now. 3D glasses not included.
And if you're wondering what the 3Ds are in The 3D Show, well, they stand for discussion, debate, and the news. I will not be talking about
Disney ruined Star Wars.
or
De Beers.
but we will probably talk about
Avengers.
and
Mario.
I do hope you enjoyed the show. The show, get it?
Okay, welcome to episode 57 of the 3D Show. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. So I recently moved, so that kind of threw things out of whack because moving kind of, does a lot to you. So, but we're back now, and we try to keep up on all the news that's happened the last few weeks. So it looks like the Emoji movie, a lot of people are depending on that movie to be a huge success. And they're willing to get big actors to be in this Emoji movie, which we already made fun of for the Christmas episode. And now they had to go call in Sir Patrick Stewart. Why? So Sir Patrick Stewart, remember, he has been knighted. You may know him from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and
the greatest Star Trek, the Starship Captain,
Captain Picard, or you may know him as Professor Xavier in almost all of the X-Men movies,
or Bullock from American Dad.
He's been around, and he's so the emoji that he's going to portray is the infamous poop emoji.
Well, I don't know why.
I guess they wanted to have a classy poop.
Oh, all right.
And I guess logically, since you did say that he has been an American Dad as Bullock, that he has a lot of voice work talent, so he, can be a great voice actor, but poop?
I don't get it.
I mean, it may be funny, but it's also kind of sad,
Yeah, it's depressing.
Such a great actor.
Well, yeah, it's like, and it's not just the role; it's the fact that the movie's going to be a complete sellout.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. It may end up being okay. We're kind of tearing into Angry Birds, to be fair, and Angry Birds actually ended up being a good movie.
Yeah.
But this, the poop emoji is just a stupid emoji to begin with. I mean, how often do you really use it for the context of, I got to go to the bathroom?
Never.
You use it for just stupid stuff,
Yeah.
So.
Okay. They could make it work if they had a bunch of, emoji jokes. For example, there would be a controversy of, the gun emoji has to leave so that the water emoji takes his place. He's, mad.
The water gun emoji.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, okay. I can kind of see this maybe being a 5-minute short in front of Minions 5, but I can't imagine this as a whole movie. Because
seriously.
Minions is not going to go away. So they're making a Minions 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going.
Wait, they're making a Minions 2?
Of course. It was $1 billion seller.
What? No.
That's why there's a new Despicable Me 3 coming out this year, so they can get more Minions in.
Why are they trying to make it like an entire climatic universe?
Because the babies like it. Because the babies like it.
It's big. Freaking all okay. All the minions are used for now is like completely like unrelated life quotes, and then it has like a couple minions there. Like, what does that mean?
Oh, like old grandma memes. Yeah.
Yeah, those.
Yeah. So apparently, really elderly people love minions too, and it's one of those things that. I guess I'm middle-aged or in my 30s, and I don't get them, and you're in your 20s, and you don't get it. And I guess we're in the wrong range there.
Yeah,
so,
we're in the middle, so,
whatever.
We have to understand.
So, Poop and Patrick Stewart. Not two things I want to put together. I actually met Patrick Stewart.
Really?
Yeah, I did. He went to the Dallas Comic-Con a few years ago, and I stood in line for like 3 hours to shake his hand, and I didn't care. I had my 3DS on me. I was getting cheap passes left and right, and I was going to meet him. And I previously that day I bought a little button that says "Resistance is futile."
Yeah.
The board, and when I went up to him, I actually got his autograph on a Star Trek cast photo, and he signed that button too. And I tried to sneak a selfie in there, and actually I took one, but they were like really upset and not wanting anything. But it's very bad quality anyway.
Terrible quality.
But I got my button, Resistance is Futile, signed by Patrick Stewart, and I have it in my truck. And that's one of my prized possessions. And my poster, at that Comic-Con, they also had the guy that played Q on there. So I had Q and Patrick Stewart, Picard and Q signed on that poster and that picture. But that's a nice little aside story that, not really relevant, but it is interesting. He was kind of not wanting to be there,
Oh. Why?
I guess, I don't know, his body language, he wasn't really warm and welcoming. He's just like, next.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, when I went, I guess it depends on the celebrity, situation. I guess
I guess.
Comic-Cons where he meets 1,000 people, he wasn't, he's just doing that for each small little check, that adds up or something. But like different people I've met, every, small time, not really small, but I mean, famous people. I met Stan Lee, and he was fantastic.
Yeah.
He was like a 3-hour line to meet him, and he was like, I don't care. I'm going to stay here until every single person in this line. And then, he walks by and says, Excelsior, and like gives high fives, and he's just so awesome to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Stan Lee is basically a god among nerds.
Basically. And the thing is that, like, it's kind of dangerous because, he's getting really old.
Yeah, he is. And so, anyway, let's move on here to a Stan Lee product, indirectly. So the Spider-Man deal that Marvel has with Sony includes that Sony can release an animated Spider-Man movie. And that's not going to be part of the MCU continuity. It's just going to be a Sony thing. And so this, we had confirmation this past week about that animated movie, which I've always kind of thought was a mistake because it's going to get confusing to have a brand new Spider-Man relaunch and then also have a Spider-Man animated movie. And so they confirmed that Miles Morales, which is the newest, I think, in the future Spider-Man.
Oh.
Is it, right? Miles Morales?
Yeah. Well, Miles Morales is the Black Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think he's like half black, half Hispanic, something like that. So he's going to be the main Spider-Man in this movie. And honestly, considering that's not canon, it's animated, it's totally different thing.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah, and it also kind of makes sense because it's like, okay, you got normal Spider-Man, you got vanilla, literally Spider-Man in the movie, and you got Black Spider-Man in the animated movie. So people won't get confused.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't like Miles Morales anyway. He has like an attitude.
No, I don't either. But the thing is that they could probably write him not bad. I mean, part of the problem with him was always the writing.
True. So I'm okay with this. Sony Animated Studios does some decent work. So they film a lot of things. So it should look pretty, and so it should be okay. I just would hope that if they're gonna do, have a new Spider-Man, then just go out crazy and have a totally different, character that's never been in a Spider-Man movie before. So I don't know enough about Miles Morales' villains. If he has different villains than the regular Peter Parker, or does he the same villain?
I think it's like, okay, so in recent years, Spider-Man's now got kind of a new rogues gallery, but the thing is that all the new villains are basically the same as the old, only kind of lamer. Like, for example, a prime example of this is this fat mob boss named the Slug. He's basically just Kingpin with a different name.
Okay.
So yeah, he has new villains, but they're basically the same,
Okay. Well, at least it'll feel different,
Yeah, and then that way, like, they can say, oh, they're different films, to better differentiate them.
Yeah, I think that's gonna make it better for audiences. I think, for me and you, we'll know the difference, but, a little kid would be like, I'm confused. Why is there Spider-Man on, with Captain America and in this movie, but in these cartoon over here? Can he change,
Yeah, they'll be able to distinguish it better, like, oh, that's the Black Spider.
Yeah, and he actually does have a black suit, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not just his racial profile is that he is ethnically black. He also does have a black suit.
It's actually kind of the reverse. You know how it's like Spider-Man has like the red and then the black line? Well, it's like it's black and then red line, so it's like the reverse kind.
And he's relatively new. I mean, I think his first appearance was in 2011. Yeah. So, that's, right now in comic book universe, that's like brand new.
Just don't bring up the female Thor anytime soon.
So, anyway, we're recording this on January 29th, 2017. So,
almost February.
Almost February here. So just, throwing that out there. 2011 to 2017 is 6 years, and that's relatively new, to have a movie, but it makes sense. I think people know enough of the character, and he could have his differences and, everything to make it more distinct and more interesting, and it should be all right. It should be okay. Yeah. Is he like in the future or anything, or no?
No. He's like in modern day. It's not like
It's not like Batman Beyond, where he's
no. They do have a Spider-Man that's set in the future though, and it's like Spider-Man 2099 or something. So they do have their own like Spider-Man Beyond kind of. Which Which Batman Beyond is actually really cool. So.
Yeah. Batman Beyond is legit. Is pretty interesting, and it's a lot of fun and well written and smart.
Yeah.
And I
If you ask me, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's one of the only like it was first and animated because he didn't come from the comics. He was like a show only kind of thing.
Yeah. But
so,
if they do any of the Spider-Man universe stuff, that might be really interesting to see because they can't really do that kind of thing in live action because it's not, it's really ridiculous. Like Madam Web and time travel and like alternate universes and that could be really cool. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, you could be a lot more like Iron Man about it,
Yeah, because in some ways it's kind of a silly character. I mean, I love Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong. It's just he can be really out there sometimes with some of the stories, and some of his villains are really weird. So
that's the reason why I kind of miss the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films because they kind of embrace the very cheesy aspect of the film, of the comic.
Yeah.
Like there's so many quotable lines in those films.
Yeah, I would love to have like Mysterio be a villain in this.
Yeah.
Because he's such a weird character. You can't, I guess you could do him in live action, but it would be kind of weird. Where in, animated movie it would be fine, Yeah,
another thing would be Sinister Six, which they planned on doing in live action, but I'm not seeing how that could ever work.
Yeah. So let's continue on with more. Now let's go on to DC Comics. So apparently Black Adam is going to have his own movie. The Rock recently confirmed this, which they've been working on that movie for a while, and we haven't heard anything about the actual characters of, in the Shazam. You got to get that right because they changed the name. Back in the day, it was Captain Marvel, and
but they couldn't do that now.
Well, it's one of those weird things where they had Captain Marvel both in DC and Marvel, and I think DC actually had it first. So, and they're totally different characters,
No, personally, mainly because one of them's a woman.
Yeah, like I think people say Captain Marvel is kind of like a version of Green Lantern for Marvel. It's a cosmic cop that has super abilities, and there's not just one person that plays it. It's different people in different times, and that's a lot of things what Green Lantern is. So anyway, so Black Adam is the villain of Captain Marvel, is like the anti-version of him, and he's played by The Rock, and apparently he's going to get his own movie, which will be interesting. I don't know how they're going to do that. They got to introduce the character first, and then they're going to get to go back and do a movie for the villain, Yeah,
I don't know what they're going to do.
It's like having a Batman movie and then having the Joker movie. It's like, okay, we just have them be part of the same movie, and, And Black Adam, to us, we know of him, but to regular moviegoers and the general public, they really don't know him. I mean, there was like the 70s TV show, but Black Adam is kind of obscure compared to like Spider-Man,
Yeah, he's pretty obscure actually.
But he's a really cool character. He's more like a fallen hero kind of thing, anti-hero, where he was supposed to be the real person with the god powers, but then Captain Marvel or Shazam actually got those powers, and then he's jealous because Shazam is just a little kid. That's a cool thing about him is that he's basically like Superman, but as a little boy, like a 10-year-old boy, and then he finds a cave or something, and so it's a pretty interesting little story, and Black Adam is jealous of Shazam and the kid because why does this kid deserve to have this power, So it's interesting. I look forward to now. Black Adam and Shazam are more kid friendly because they're supposed to be, All right, so what do you want to go to next?
What's the next thing on the list?
Okay, so we have to kind of talk about this. It looks like 3D HD TVs are going to be going obsolete, if not dead, in the very near future. they have been going out recently. They've become harder and harder to find, and now there's a petition on change.org that people want the new versions of 4K HD TVs, Ultimate, whatever. They don't have 3D anymore. So one of the largest manufacturers are not making them anymore. The only one that is making it is called Ultra D, and so they're actually making a glasses-free 4K 3D HD TV. But they were in CES this year, a couple weeks ago, but they're the only game in town now. So people are getting like, hey, I actually like, watching 3D at home on Blu-ray. And it's kind of sad that it's basically going to be this one player.
Yeah.
I went to Best Buy the other day and I asked them about it, and like, yeah, we don't sell them anymore at all. We don't have any old ones.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but the thing is that one thing I noticed about the 3D whole thing was that, not a lot of DVDs came out and were compatible with that, They had to be specifically for 3D, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, Avengers on Blu-ray 3D or whatever, it's really expensive.
Yeah, so the whole reason 3D HD TVs kind of died off and are basically extinct now, except for that one player, is because it was so expensive. You had to buy a special HD TV, you had to buy a special Blu-ray player, and you had to buy the disc. And depending where you bought it, that added up real quick, because you couldn't just use the same 3D glasses you got when you go see the movie.
Yeah,
theaters.
exactly.
You had to pay for these glasses that, and those glasses, I remember the first ones, they're like $100 or something, or $50 each. That's a lot to invest. I mean,
yeah, and I mean, most of the time when people buy these, not just for themselves, it's for a family,
Yeah, and so you would want to buy, 4 or something, and, it just, I've seen a few movies at home in 3D. My different family members have it, and it does look great, depending on the movie, obviously. But, it does work really well. It just, you have to have all these barriers to go into it,
Yeah.
Whenever I bought my Blu-ray player, I thought about getting 3D. It just, I was like, oh, I have an HD TV, but I don't have a 3D TV. And then those cost like $500 to $1,000 more. And then the Blu-ray player itself costs $100 more, and just like, yeah, maybe later. And that later never really happened because.
Yeah, I mean, I actually remember seeing something on the 3D TV, and it was actually Avatar. And with that film, it looks really, really good in 3D, and there's no really other way to capture the experience of watching the theater,
Yeah. It's just kind of one of those sad things. I understand why it is. I didn't sign the petition. If I do, that 4K TV from Ultra, if that does come out, that would be an upgrade to me because I have a regular HD TV. I don't have 4K, so that would be nice, So that I haven't decided if I'm going to go to 4K yet because there's so little programming with 4K. So having 4K 3D HD is that's going to be expensive. But if you do have one, save it. Don't sell it, or those prices on I think eBay are going to go really high. Because so many people, are going to want to have it, and the prices for those glasses are probably going to go really high too. So I think it dipped in price, and it became affordable for 2 or 3 years, and then it just died. So now you can't really find it anywhere. And if you can find it, it's expensive, and it's just kind of sad. I'll put the petition on the link if you are interested in signing that petition, but the thing with Petition, I think you know it, James. It's interesting. It makes a headline, but people don't really care.
Yeah,
You know?
sadly, a lot of people don't pay attention to them.
So it's just kind of sad. LG may look at it and be like, okay, we got 500,000 people to sign it. Okay. Or is that going to be enough to justify how much it costs to manufacture it and ship it? And, 500,000 people, it sounds like a lot of people, and it is. It's just when you think of the numbers, big numbers, big scope thing, that's where it gets ugly. That's where it gets weird because, people are starting to buy 4K now, and I'm not sure about it because I know 8K is around the corner from 4K, and they're going to keep jumping up, and I'm kind of just waiting for things to settle down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember a few years ago, before Blu-ray became officially the next thing, it was the HD DVD versus Blu-ray. They both came out at the same time, and different movies are on different, Blu-ray or HD TV or HD DVD, and then eventually Blu-ray won because Sony did a big push on it for PS3, and it became the standard. And Blu-ray hasn't really been as big as DVD is. I know a lot of people that never really upgraded to Blu-ray, or they are like, oh, who cares? Whatever. It's not that much better. It's live. It is so much better than DVD. But I mean, people have a really weird idea of appliances, and not wanting to rebuy them after 5 years. So it's kind of sad to see it officially die out, but it is what it is. Okay, so let's go over a Nintendo Direct. Or they did a presentation on Fire Emblem.
So, new Fire Emblem game, basically.
Quite a few, actually. So they officially announced Fire Emblem coming to mobile, and in that presentation, that mobile version seems like the mobile ones that are nickel and diming you every step of the way, which I'm not a Fire Emblem fan to begin with, so I don't care. But they did announce quite a few things here. They did announce a new 3DS game, a game for the Switch. So this 3DS game is actually like a remake of the second Fire Emblem game, which never came out in America, which is considered one of the better Fire Emblem games. That's actually supposed to come out in May. So that's really close by. And the mobile game is supposed to come out really soon, too. So everything's happening one thing after another. February 2nd. So that's just around the corner. And, a Switch game, and a mobile game, and a new 3DS game, and another new 3DS game. Remember Hyrule Warriors, James?
Yes.
Well, they're making a Warriors game with Fire Emblem.
Oh. So it's going to be like a crossover of a crossover.
So it'll be Fire Emblem Warriors. And
okay.
So, because everyone loves Hyrule Warriors, sarcastic tone, just in case you don't get that.
Yeah.
I reviewed it and I hated it. I gave it a 4 out of 10 if you had a new 3DS and a 3 out of 10 if you had the old 3DS. It was that much worse to take off a point. So this is actually interesting because, James, this is a new 3DS exclusive.
Wow.
And going to come to the Switch as well.
Oh.
I mean, you can't play this on the original 3DS, but you can play it on the new 3DS and the Switch.
Wow.
So, yeah. That's
what about
come
new
out.
2DS?
Well, that hasn't come up yet, so I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But
it better.
yeah. I totally understand why they're doing this. I just don't want no part of it. You know, Japan loves those Warriors games, you know, and they love Fire Emblem, so this is just like a perfect match. And I'm going to assume they're going to use the same engine of Hyrule Warriors, you know, maybe modify it just, a little bit, because, you know, how game companies are. If they make an engine, they're going to use every bit of it and try and make as much money back from making that engine, you know. So, Fire Emblem. Ugh. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 games coming out the next year and change. One for your mobile, one for your 3DS, another one for your 3DS, and one for the Switch. Another one that works on both the new 3DS and Switch. You know, we were talking about this last year, that we were tired of Fire Emblem. And they're just
Mario.
Yeah, they're just double down on it. No, you're going to get Fire Emblem. We're going to shove it down your throat, and you're going to like it. They kind of have an F-Zero instead. No. They had a Metroid? No. More Fire Emblem for you. You know, it's just like, come on. I mean, I guess I'm happy. You know, it's good that our franchise has become big now, but I mean, come on. You're going to overdo the market. I mean, they kind of overdid it anyway, because they had 3 games last year, and then the one before that was like 2 years ago before. So they're just going crazy with this Fire Emblem stuff, and I just don't care for it one bit. So we got also some interesting little tidbits for this year from Nintendo. Nintendo did say that they're going to have a new 3DS XL, and this one's going to be Pikachu colored, have, you know, like the newer Pikachu, so it's going to be yellow. So, you know, Pikachu Yellow Edition. Be different from the other Pikachu 3DS that looks like nipples, you know. It's going to be just more like a little drawing on it. And that's going to come out, where is that going to come out? February 24th. And then we got a demo for Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, which is coming out February 3rd on the 3DS. I played it. It's pretty good. I was surprised. I have a new 3DS, so I don't know how it plays on the old 3DS. So I'm surprised how smooth and fast it is. Obviously, it's not HD quality, but the 3D looks really great on it. You know, it has lots of different layers to it. So, you know, I'm not a super fan of Yoshi games, but this is pretty solid. This seems like a pretty good translation, you know, and you get to 3D instead of HD graphics. So it's not too bad. And that Tank Troopers game is coming out on February 16th, so that's coming up pretty soon. And the Mario Sports Superstars, remember this one, James, with the horse racing? The horse racing.
Yeah, I remember.
Now they're going to have amiibo cards.
Why?
So it's going to be blind packs of 5 for $5. And, you know, the game comes with a card, and you could, you know, scan in stuff for the game, you know. And it's like, really? For sports games? Couldn't you just use the amiibo that you already have, you know? Okay, sure. I didn't know Nintendo's going to make a big push out of this game, but I guess because the 3DS doesn't have that much other stuff, they're going to really push it out. But they did confirm again that the new Pikmin game is coming out sometime this year, which is good. And then some more games are being lower priced. So Kirby Triple Deluxe, Mario and Luigi Dream Team are now going to be $20. So Kirby's pretty cool. Mario and Luigi, I got tired of that franchise, so whatever. But that's kind of neat. You gonna pick up any of those games or no?
Well, I've been recently getting into Pikmin.
Yeah, I definitely want Pikmin. And then what do you about the Pokemon Pikachu new 3DS XL? Do you want that thing?
Nah.
Okay. So let's go on to another news story. Totally off video games for a minute. And we got a new news on next Star Wars, Episode 8. Finally has a subtitle name. What is the name, James?
The Last Jedi.
I actually really like that name. It sounds really cool and very interesting. So people are thinking, who is the Last Jedi? I'm pretty sure. Now, it's actually kind of interesting because the scroll for Episode 7 actually mentions this. It's actually mentioned the Last Jedi being Luke. So, since Luke has a role in Episode 7, but not as big as a role as people thought, oof, that's kind of harder to not spoil that. It's pretty safe to assume that Episode 7 is going to have 8, going to have a lot of Luke, and which is fine. You know, I'm a big fan of this new Star Wars, so even I'm not a super fan of Rogue One, but I do really like it, and I do really like Episode 7. So it's kind of interesting talking about this because, you know, we heard that at the end of the year, Leia passed away, end of 2016, and apparently she finished filming all her scenes for Episode 8, and they were going to start filming Episode 9, but they didn't yet. So she actually had a big part in Episode 9, and they're not sure how they're going to handle her in Episode 9. And they confirmed that they're not going to force digital character of Leia.
They should.
No.
That would be funny.
They already did that before in Rogue One, and that was pretty controversial, and it worked enough, but I don't want to see that for Leia who just passed away, you know? So,
Well,
new Star Wars. All right, so let's end this podcast with the biggest news in the past probably month is the whole Switch event. Did you watch all this?
no.
So, Nintendo of Japan had a very late Switch presentation. Like it was like 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, and they showed off everything about the Switch that you probably want to know, which is the price, the release date, and the launch lineup. Now, they did confirm in an interview with Kotaku that the Switch does not play 3DS games, and it cannot. The cartridge unit for the Switch is not compatible with anything else but the Switch game.
Wow.
So that is a huge news there, and we are going to talk about the Switch right now, but I kind of think that because of that aspect, it's not going to have stereoscopic 3D. It's not going to play 3DS games. I kind of think it's off topic now. We don't really talk about Xbox.
That's true.
So we don't really talk about Xbox. We don't talk about PlayStation, because they don't have 3D. I guess you do a little bit of PlayStation because they do VR, but that's different.
That's different.
And we mention it in passing, but we're not really going to talk about the Switch or put up press releases on the Switch because it's not really part of it. Now, this is like an editorial decision of mine because, I'm interested in the Switch. I'm probably going to get one. It's just I don't want to be one of those websites that started off with something and then ended up with something totally else. I don't want to be an MTV. You know what MTV stands for? Sense. James, you know what MTV stands for?
Music television.
And what do they show right now?
I don't know. Teen pregnancy.
Yeah, not at all. With music videos or music industry, and so many different places are like, you lost your way. You're not what I thought you're going to be, and I don't want to be that way. I don't want to do what's there. This is not, it's 3D or 2D, and it's about stereoscopic 3D and the 3D stuff, And so I guess, until the 3DS officially dies, which Reggie from Nintendo did mention that the 3DS has a long life in it and that they're not competing devices. Well, you know how it is. So the 3DS is going to stick around until it's not, until a lot of people are the Switch. They're not going to kill off the 3DS until it looks like the Switch is fully on. And it may take a little while. The new 3DS will probably buy some time. We know we have games this year. We're probably going to have some games next year. And after that, it's going to be a real test to see if the new 3DS has legs or if it dies and people get switched over to the Switch. Yeah, so We'll cover 3DS news. Virtual reality, yeah, we'll cover that. 3D movie news, yeah, we'll cover that. But Switch news, not so much. But we'll talk about it right now because it is news. So the Switch is going to be $300, James.
Good price.
And it does not come with a game.
That's stupid.
And it comes out March 3rd.
Well, set my calendar.
And Zelda Breath of the Wild is a launch game. Comes out on...
It's almost exactly like the whole Twilight Princess thing.
Yeah. So the Zelda Breath of the Wild also comes out on Wii U, but the graphics are better on the Switch. They actually kind of showed videos of it, the graphics being better on it, and besides that, there's not that much differences between them. I think it has better audio too, but the Switch has some interesting aspects. They do have HD rumble, so apparently you can feel things happening in the remote and the control. They have like examples where they said you could feel like an ice cube, like if you're holding the remote, the Joy-Con in your hand, and we have an ice cube, and you can feel it going down the glass, and you can feel one ice cube versus two ice cubes versus three ice cubes, and that's pretty interesting, and there's some more motion control games with. So a game called 1-2 Switch, and it's like a mini game collection. And they showed off a new game called Arms, which is like a boxing game, but it has these people that have like really long arms. And the games are going to be like $60. And one thing I kind of learned about Zelda is that you need to have 3 gigs on your Wii U to install it. Plus the game.
Wow, well.
So that's a huge amount of storage there that you have to think about if you get the Wii U version. And then like all the controllers and accessories, James, are really expensive.
Wow.
So like the Pro controller is like $70.
That's ridiculous.
and the Joy-Cons are like $40 each. Or if you get or like $49, and it just is extremely expensive. And of course, in the middle of the night, you could pre-order, and I was not able to pre-order this thing, so I don't know if I'm gonna get it. And knowing how bad Nintendo has been with supply and demand things, I do want to play Zelda, but I don't know if I'm not going to clear out my hard drive on the Wii U to play it or buy a hard drive for the Wii U, and I don't think I can find the Switch anywhere because all the pre-orders got sold out within minutes. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. It's interesting. I am interested in it. It does look like a pretty cool device. They said that battery life is totally dependent on the game you play. So that's interesting. They said that Zelda, you get a good solid 3 hours out of the gamepad. 3 hours. Shane.
Wow.
And smaller indie games will take 3 or 4, 5, 6 hours, give or take. So it's definitely kind of a weak battery,
Like always.
And yeah, see, if it was 300 plus a game, I think I could feel more comfortable about it. But 300 without the game, man, that's getting expensive. And and so they also said that it's not backwards compatible with anything. So you can't use your GameCube controller or your Wii U controllers or anything like that. So it's going to start fresh with the Joy-Con controllers and all these adapters and everything. So, yeah, that's the Switch. It looks cool. But it looks pretty expensive. And $400 for a Switch and a game is a lot of money.
Well,
and you could buy a Petition 4, and you could start buying VR for that amount of money. So that's going to be it. Do you have anything else to mention, James?
Nope. I'll see you guys next time.
All right, bye.
All right, so that's going to wrap up this podcast.
Remember to like, comment, favorite, subscribe, love, whatever. Heart it, do something.
3D or 2D.com can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, and SoundCloud. And if you want to send us email, our email address is email3d or 2d@gmail.com. And thank you again for listening. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.